News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Paranoid Pete's Tinfoil Hat Boutique. The problem is not that sinister extraterrestrials are trying to penetrate your brain. The problem is that your tinfoil hat is unstylish. So before you get abducted, get into Paranoid Pete's Tinfoil Hat Boutique. You're not just being paranoid. Everyone really is watching you because you look fabulous. Beam in to Paranoid Pete's Tinfoil Hat Boutique today.
Absolutely, Allan, and quit staring at me that way. This thing, you know how much I paid for this hat?
Suddenly, that hat makes so much sense.
And welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilworth with GeekySideTV.com.
And you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we got our buddy Max behind the glass. Forgot to acknowledge him, but Kelly Cruz, once again, thank you for the sponsorship. Wow. Thank you for always digging deep and finding the people we need to get involved with the show. So, well, Allan, hey, speaking of people we need to get involved with the show, our buddy Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio is coming in He's coming in the second hour of the show, like near the end, basically, because we have a special edition of Geek Tank Radio today. Oh. We're not airing at 12 o'clock, Allan. We're airing at 10 o'clock right after this. So, people, if you think you can't get enough of me and Allan or Brandon, stay tuned because you're
going to get more.
You're going to get more. And then, of course, they're bringing the Tigers on. So this is a sort of clipped edition, I guess, or limited. But, Allan, this is exciting. You, in our exhaustive show prep last night, I think I told you, okay, stop giving me this information because this is definitely something we're talking about on the show. And I wanted to have a fresh take, but this is a science segment, but it's here now. These are developments. It was the Lexus Design Awards, you said, and this is you've got something that it's going to be a landmark invention, I think. And then also in the science of paint, we've got something else. So we've got paint.
We got to talk about paint, and you and I are kind of paint aficionados.
Absolutely. So later, Maximilian, he's got another one of his deep cuts. He wants to talk about the architectural style of brutalism, which is very interesting. It's divisive. It can be charming, or it can be really. I can't
wait to cut that block out. Yes,
but just the name of it is alone. Yeah, I heard. Okay, and
I said that so he'd smirk. Yeah, he's smirking.
We've got our must-have item of the week, and like I said, we'd love to hear from you on the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that,
and now Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
There are some times when you can't wait to get out of your vehicle, such as when you arrive at Yosemite National Park. There are some times when you don't want to get out of your vehicle, such as when it's raining outside. There are some times you may find it challenging to get out of your vehicle, such as when you're driving through a car wash. And of course, there are some times when you might run screaming from your vehicle, such as when you're an Amazon delivery driver charged with dropping off a wriggling package to Allan Gilbreth's house with a warning label reading, "For best results, electrodes must be charged to 600 volts and attached during the full moon." I don't even want to ask, Allan. I don't know if that's a dinner plans or what, but we don't want to know. No matter how or when you choose to get out of your vehicle, however, there is no more convenient place to park than in your own garage. And yet, in the early decades of the automobile era, even getting in and out of your garage could be a messy and cumbersome operation, especially when it was raining or snowing. In the year 1931, however, a new device was invented that would make even parking our vehicle convenient and effortless. My friends, we give you the automatic garage door opener.
Yeah.
1931, Allan. I'm a little surprised by that. That's interesting. So it's further back than I would have thought. I would have thought this was a 1950s deal.
Well, all right. The actual door itself, the actual flip-up door, not dissimilar to the one in your house.
Right. Okay.
Actually got started about 1921.
Oh, very good. Okay.
A guy by the name of C.G. Johnson patented this, and basically it was a barn door that swung up.
Yeah, which I still have at my
Which
house. Yeah.
you guys
I have that heavy door that weighs like 200 pounds or whatever, and it swings out, but it still works. But you're saying
that pretty much was the original design. Now, of course, the birth of the garage is basically the adaptation of the horse barn.
okay, yeah, I'll take your word for that. Yeah,
prior to cars, how did you get around? You either walked or you had a living mode of transport.
sure.
So you had the barn with the big swinging barn doors and, questions like don't lock the barn if you've lost the horse and stuff like that.
Yeah, words you grew up with, Allan.
Well,
Yeah.
buggy whips were a thing, man.
Yeah.
So the original idea was, it's kind of a barn for your car. So they had the big swinging doors like you had on a barn.
Right.
So you got out of the car, you went and swung the door open, and then you jumped in the car and you ran in and you closed the door behind you. And, it was a lot of work.
But now, if I'm correct, Allan, so yeah, they invented, I thought it was like a touchpad type thing. It's probably like a button. You pull up, you hit the button, and it opens.
Right.
Which is one step removed from getting out of your car and just lifting it up. But I think the wireless thing is what changed it, and that was a 50s or 60s type thing.
Well, that's when we got into radio control.
Okay.
Because when these things when they started getting really popular in the 60s, on into the 70s, of the really cruel and fun thing to do when you were a child was get on your bicycle with daddy's remote and ride your bike down the street and see how many remote controls you could activate and open the doors.
Not that Allan ever did anything like that.
Never did anything like that ever.
Hats off to the automatic garage door opener. Okay. Well, I don't know, man. That sounds like something you would have done, Allan. I'm sorry, but okay. Anyway,
I'm not confessing to anything.
Okay. Anyway, Allan, this is unrelated, but I'm looking forward to hearing the next science segment when we come up. So you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 2021 Lexus Design Awards.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I haven't seen you fellas since you destroyed my home, my land, and my rocket.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I had nothing to do with that rocket, Allan. That's all on you. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, be sure to go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like. And if you're the curious type who can't wait for information and you got to have spoilers, if you go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you can see our must-have item of the week, which has already been posted, Allan. It's sitting right here on the countertop here at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Studios. So, Allan, we're about to get high tech because we're going to talk about the 2021 Lexus Awards. Before we do, though, speaking of high tech, we have an interesting partner on the show, a proud sponsor that we're happy to talk about, Tri-State Interiors. They do the kitchen and bath remodeling, which you talk about it's a combination of high tech and street level guerrilla. What is the word? Just keeping it real, not wasting money on things that you don't need. So Tri-State Interiors prides themselves on their craftsmanship, but also their low overhead, because that's what you're paying for. You want craftsmanship and you don't want to pay for things that you don't necessarily need. So, but the high tech end comes in, Allan, because when you're remodeling your kitchen or bathroom, it's nice to have a sense of what it's going to look like beforehand. And they have these beautiful 3D 360-degree renderings that you can put on your computer or smart device before you start tearing your walls apart or before they start construction, and you can see exactly what your kitchen's going to look like.
That's right. A quick shout out to everybody from last week. We were actually live at the Cooper Young, and they were there with us.
Oh yeah, Mike Serafolian was there.
We
gave away a lot of good stuff.
We were giving away a lot of pens and a lot of notepads.
I stole a lot of those, a lot of each, and I think you walked off with one of their koozies, right? Those.
I didn't grab one in time.
Okay,
they were gone.
Yeah.
So massive shout out. So if you guys came by and talked to us at the Cooper Young Festival, man, it was great to meet you. It was wonderful to see you, and you got a chance to talk to Mike, the man himself.
Yeah, they do great work, and I like his approach because I actually, Allan, one of the reasons I hit it off so well with Mike is I have the exact same approach with mine. I'm like, I try to keep my overhead low, and I try to focus on making sure the craftsmanship is top notch, and it makes sense. I mean, that's what people are going to remember, and that's what they're going to notice when it comes time to pay the bill. It's like, wow, this is thousands of dollars less than somebody else would have charged.
Well, and I'm also going to throw in everybody's worst nightmare about a remodeling.
Right.
Okay, well, you special ordered this one particular toilet. So now that we have your bathroom utterly destroyed, we'll be back in 12 weeks when it comes in.
Right. Good point.
That is not their policy. Their policy is they do not actually begin a job until everything they've ordered for it has come in.
Yeah, it's parked in their warehouse so that when the stage comes to remove a wall, they have they can put the tile in, they can put everything in that's going in place, and that streamlines the whole process because that's what you want. So.
Well, sitting there chatting with him, he was telling me, their idea was they wanted to get in, get it done right, and get out.
Right, give you your life back.
They're not moving in with you. They want to get this job over with.
Yeah,
and for I don't know how many remodels I've been through over the years of, oh my gosh, that is the best news any homeowner could have.
Absolutely. So get in touch with the good people at Tri-State Interiors. Call Mike Serafolian at 901-409-1333. Another easy to remember number, Allan. Mm-hmm. Or you can go to tristateinteriors.llc.com. And basically, if you can hear our show, you're in his service area. If you're 50 miles away and you're thinking, oh, well, they don't service out here. Yes, they do. Oh, yeah. It's called Tri-State Interiors for a reason. So, All right, Allan, I'm excited about this segment. You know us. We're all about talking about the future of home improvement, the future of technology and how it's going to affect things. Well, Allan, it's here. This is here right now. You were talking about the 2021 Lexus Design Awards. I'm assuming it's the automotive company Lexus. And there's some pretty interesting developments.
Well, basically the award is all about improving the human condition.
Yeah.
That's
just like Tool Talk Radio.
Well, we do try. So here we go. Of this gentleman by the name of Henry Glogau, it was sitting there. And he looked, it's one of those, I'm sure it was an aha moment because he's looking at a skylight. Mm-hmm. So, all right, basically for you and I, Joe, what is a skylight? Well, it's a hole through the attic with a cover on top, some sheetrock around it so you can get some natural light into your building.
Right.
That's basically it.
And real quick, Allan, one of the and if you want to get a little more high tech, you can get those skylight tubes that are lined with mirrors, and they project. It's almost like having a spotlight in your room. Right. Those are cool.
It doesn't lose daylight as it comes.
It almost amplifies it, and then you're basically getting free light, which is cool.
Exactly. All right. So let's just start with a skylight's a good idea. You get free lighting.
Right.
Okay. Well, Henry went several steps further than that. He went, okay, what is one of the most basic needs of anybody? You gotta have water.
Sure.
You gotta have water.
Even you, Allan.
Well, you're not kidding. The world is not made of Diet Mountain Dew.
Right.
All right, so we got plenty of seawater. There are a lot of places on this planet that don't have plenty of regular fresh water.
Sure.
So he went, well, what is a skylight? It's a big empty tube with a power source.
Yeah.
The sun.
The ultimate power source.
The power source.
Right.
So why not put a desalination tank in the skylight and run it on solar power?
And for those uninitiated, desalination means taking the salt out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to use an evaporation process that uses, of all things, terracotta. That's the same stuff that your pots are made out on your garden.
Pretty readily available, right?
And it's a very earth-friendly substance.
Yeah.
It, came from the dirt, returns to the dirt.
Yeah.
So this process is actually pretty straightforward. You evaporate the good water out of the saline.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay,
you
I had this
condense it
backwards
down.
when we were talking last night. I'm picturing so what you're saying is almost the water becomes like a mist, like we say, like it evaporates. I'm thinking of the moisture farmers on Tatooine, like Luke Skywalker.
Right.
So basically,
You have the idea.
so that, and then what you don't want stays down. That's sort of the
Right.
salty layer.
That becomes a very thick brine.
Oh,
Now, the one
which
thing
is probably useful, right?
Well, one thing a very thick brine is good at is generating an electric charge.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Here we go. So now we have a solar-powered unit that can create fresh water, but at the same time, it is also creating a potential energy source.
So nothing goes away. All you're doing is you're separating. You're taking out the good stuff. You're taking out the water, and you put that over here so people can drink it or bathe or whatever, and then you're not wasting the brine. You're keeping all that.
Now,
you're just dividing the materials.
Exactly. So you are going to look just a little strange walking up to your chandelier with a glass of water and, hitting the spigot and getting a glass of water.
Well, I hope it doesn't go to that extreme, but yeah. Okay.
Well, Joe, I'll show you the picture because
so the water
that
is
a
up.
working unit.
Oh, wow. So the guy is reaching up to get the water out. Okay.
Yeah, the water is pooled at the bottom of the unit.
That's very interesting. If for those who can't see through the radio, it's almost like a funnel on your ceiling. I would think they're going to refine that a little bit. Maybe it'll come through a refrigeration unit. This is just
Right. This is just the design that won the award.
Right.
So and here's one of these things. This isn't a theory. This isn't something on paper. This is something that is actually built and working.
I'm thinking, Allan, all of our tree-hugging hippies that are listening right now that want to go off the grid, they're loving this. They're thinking, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Wouldn't this be an amazing source of light, power, salt?
Yeah.
One of the things people forget, salt is kind of rare also in certain parts of the world.
Yeah. Well, there's isn't that why like a salt mine was like a gold mine basically back in the ancient days? You wanted salt.
Oh my gosh. So. If you could find salt, you had it kind of made. At some point in time, even salt was occasionally used for money.
Oh yeah. Yeah, salt was a big deal. So but so basically it sounds like what I love about this is it's a combination of just raw nature being just tweaked enough where it's kind of high tech, but it also sort of isn't. I have to wonder if in the old days maybe somebody did this like 2,000 years ago, a variation of this. I don't know. Like I'm just picturing some cave with a skylight in it. Like you go up to the stalactite and you got your drinking fountain right there. So
I am gonna say that using an evaporation system to get your water also ties into, I don't know, making your scotch, your malts, your evaporation has been a time-honored human tradition.
Absolutely. And I think talking about making malt counts as a food reference. So Maximilian keeps score. That's one food reference. We're only into segment 2 that Allan is segued. But this is super interesting. So this is here now. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, Allan, because the Lexus Awards, I can imagine how many interesting things are coming out of it.
Amazing inventions.
Well, speaking of amazing things, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, continue our discussion about the 2021 Lexus Awards, and then talk about the science of paint.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I wonder if they're fraternal or identical tools.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I haven't heard from that jerk in a while. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, you can go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Make sure you do. Give us a like. Send us questions. We'll take questions from there. We're not too proud for that. We'll answer in real time, and of course, if you like spoilers, you can go there right now and find out what our must-have item of the week is. That's exciting. Being ahead of the curve, Alan.
Well,
nothing more exciting than that.
That's true. We like to stay there if we can.
You know what else is exciting, Alan? When you have it's sad, but it's also exciting because when the problem gets fixed. When you have a problem with your HVAC system, and you're panicking, you don't know what to do. Well, you know what you do? You call the good people at Brown Refrigeration. Not only for that, they've been in this game for years. They know their stuff. Top-notch technicians, top-notch service, and they stand behind everything they do. But also, they have these beautiful clean air systems, which the Remy Halo system it's kind of ties into what we're talking about with the power of the sun. It creates the power of the sun inside your HVAC unit.
It does.
To release cleaning particulates that land. Just imagine little microscopic cleaning bubbles. I always like to think of that like those scrubbing bubbles that are getting rid of bacteria. They're getting rid of they're killing the smell, and making your house smell fresher and help combating against the COVID and flu.
Viruses and bacteria do not stand up very well to UVC light.
No, they don't like it. And also we love their smart home systems. All of these controls right on your phone. There's an app for basically everything. And they do it all at Brown Refrigeration. They do it with a smile. And like I said, when you call in, ask for Mrs. Brown. She's a riot. And talk to them. Any of the crew over there will help you out. So get in touch with them at 901-362-1881 or go to their website, brownref.com. Well, Alan, I did want to mention Brown Refrigeration because the Remy Halo, it ties in with what we're talking about here in the Lexus. The Lexus Design Awards that just took place because if you're just tuning in, Allan is bringing us a story about basically the power of the sun, giving light to your home through a skylight and also filtering water, taking the salt water and separating the salt and making it so you have drinking water. I had a question, Allan. I don't know if this is in the same subject matter or not, but I have it was a hot summer, right? So I was working on a job and it was a particularly hot week and it was just muggy and sweaty and everything. And I have a canvas tool belt. I don't like the big heavy leather ones. Mine's a medium grade. It's good enough for what I do. Well, after about 3 weeks of sweating and
absorbing Joe juice.
Yeah, and I just thanks for putting it that way. I just put I'll confess this. At the end of the workday, I just throw it in the back of my truck and well, it got a little ripe. It was not. It was getting to that smell. It was getting to that stage where I'm like, okay, I don't even want to get near this thing. Well, I had a little brainstorm, and actually, it probably comes from having so many discussions with you about the power of the sun. So what I did, Allan, is at the beginning of the day, I just laid it out in the direct sun. It was like 90 degrees out that day. It was in the sun probably for about 7 hours. Well, by the end of the day, it didn't smell anymore. Right. It was hot. Yeah,
it was hot. It was dry.
I still need to wash the dust out of it and everything, but it killed that smell. So what was going on in that process? Because I was pretty proud of myself.
You're looking at basically 3 types of ray in any type of sunshine. You got a UVC, A, B, and C. A and B will penetrate glass and stuff like that easily, so we get light in our homes.
Right.
UVC is the one that burns stuff up. That's the one that will give you a bad sunburn.
Oh, yeah.
However, that is also the one that is really good at drying things out and killing bacterial, microbial, and other types of life.
Yeah.
The sun is a mixed blessing depending upon what you're doing.
Yeah.
We love to be outside in the sun, but too much of it is a bad thing. In this case, you used it to your advantage because the microbes feeding on all the organic material trapped in the canvas are not very UVC friendly.
Yeah, they don't like it. They like the dark.
They got cooked.
Well, right. and actually, that's another thing, too, because I was thinking of, back in my day, I can remember people hanging up clothes on a clothesline and everything. And you might have that T-shirt that you just can't part with, but it's getting a little, it's starting to get that funky thing. Well, put it out in the sun. You can't just wash those smells away sometimes. There's stuff in there that's not going to be killed from detergent.
To give a shout out to a few people that you and I both know, there is a return to using the laundry lines these days.
Oh, good. Okay.
You can still go to certain hardware stores, and they have either antenna-shaped clothes dryers, or they have the traditional clothes line. These things are still available.
Well, it's free.
People are still doing this because there was just something about the clothes or the sheets, or in my case, the towels, dried outside. They just have a finished texture you're not going to get from the dryer.
Yeah. Quick tip, though. Don't put it under a tree because you don't know what kind of birds will be up above and leaving their...
you don't want that much pollen in the spring.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking of the bird, leaving their mark.
We don't need additional bird deposits left anywhere.
Yeah. But steering back to your Lexus Design Awards that basically use the power of the sun to provide light for a home. It's a high-tech skylight, and also it's separated the salt. They take salt water, they separate the salt from the water, and the water winds up above you, which is interesting. I'm sure when they perfect this, they're going to have the water, it'll be up above, and they'll steer it through a cooling system or a tank or something.
Wherever you want. Right.
But it's what I like in all of these designs, Alan, is I feel like as we go forward with technology, you have to cooperate with nature. And why? Yeah, and this is... To me, it's such a simple idea, but once again, those are always the best ones.
Well, now let me blow your mind with this.
Okay.
Are you ready? That was just the winner.
That's true. We didn't hear about the runner-ups.
That was the Grand Prix winner. There were I think the estimate was 2,079 entries from 66 countries. So, all right, that's the one that won.
Yeah.
What about all of the other entries? Because you knew, all right, if that was the winner I'm looking at a design called a Terracotta Valley Wind. And this was not the winner. This was just one of the finalists.
Yeah.
And what they had done was they developed a terracotta cooling system to put in subway stations to keep the heat down.
Oh, very interesting, because it does get warm in there. Yeah.
Terracotta is a very accessible clay material. Again, it's very neutral. It's very environmentally friendly. But because of its porous nature, well, again, we're allowing water to evaporate quickly. So we're keeping that nice, cool, dry air.
Right.
And it also makes the subway look unbearably cool.
Yeah,
because of the way they designed the subway tiles.
Right. No, that
absolutely amazing.
Is it easy to get graffiti off of it?
Well, it's terracotta. It's some pretty. Terracotta is some hard stuff, y'all.
Well, you know what I'm picturing here too, Alan, with these Lexus Design Awards. Okay, well, you might have part of a good idea, and I'm picturing almost like a science fair in a gymnasium or something like this, and. Well, my neighbor over there, if we put these two ideas together, suddenly we're looking at, a great thing. So all of the elements in this, we don't know what the full fallout of this is going to be. Wait till we start coalescing some of these ideas together, and it's exciting, man. I love this stuff. I'm optimistic, people. I have faith in the future of humanity. So I mean, and this is just great inventions.
If you want faith in humanity, here's another one of the finalists. It was called Heartfelt.
Okay.
And basically, it is a heart-shaped, fundamentally mood ring. So you can hold it in your hands, and it will react to your mood, anxieties, and other stuff.
React how?
It is emotional support.
Okay. Well, isn't that what our cell phone is for? Okay. That one, I don't know. Okay. It reminds me of that therapy buddy that I saw, that stuffed animal you carry around. At some point, I don't know, but I'm sure there's lots of interesting things. Is there a place people can check this out to find out all the
they
information?
can go to discoverlexus.com and they can look up the Lexus Awards.
Okay.
And right now, if you're feeling really inspired, all of the instructions are up there on how to submit your design for an award in 2022.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, and then so that's cool, Alan. We're going to kind of keep it sciencey when we come back. We're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about the science of bright paint, I guess, or the world's brightest paint. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Gonna paint your wagon, gonna paint it fine. Gonna use oil-based paint, cause the wood is pine.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I have nothing to say. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like. Check us out there. Send us your messages, and you can get a sneak peek at our must-have item of the week. Allan, we've been talking sciencey. We're going to continue this a little bit, although I don't know if it's considered... this is not a futuristic science discussion we've got coming up. It's going to be basically, this is the here and now, so we're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, I want to mention a friend of ours, Allan, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Well, for one thing, he's just a funny guy. He knows everybody in Memphis. The guy's an institution out here. But Big M Roofing and Remodeling, he's in a unique position. Jay is a former insurance agent, so he knows that business.
Right.
But he's also a GAF Master Elite Contractor. He's accredited with the Better Business Bureau. He got into the contracting game. And so when you're replacing your roof, it's really important to know whether or not you qualify for replacement through your homeowner's insurance, because sometimes you do. And you're going to want to know that beforehand. You're saving thousands of dollars if you are. And it's a big deal, Allan, replacing your roof.
It certainly is, Joe. When you start thinking about our favorite phrase, water is the enemy.
Yeah, in terms of your home.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were just talking about how water was your friend. Now, if it's falling on your roof and your roof leaks, water is definitely your enemy.
Right.
Really, honestly, there's no more important part of your house.
Yeah.
For protecting your value and the longevity of your building than the roof.
And who would have thought? This is new to me, Allan. This is because the roofing systems that they put on, it's not just shingles and it's not just rolled tar. These are complete systems with attic vents, and I'm telling you, we're going to talk about this next time we have Jay in the studio. I have a new roof that they put on, and I'm telling you, my utility bills have gone down noticeably every month. And this has been a good 5 months, and I've noticed that it's got to be connected. I mean, we got through a hot summer, and it's great. So, and also they do remodeling, roofing and remodeling. So you can learn about it if you want to get in touch with. Call Jay at 901-484-5645. You can call their office at 901-379-8184. Or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. But Jay's a riot anyway. We love Jay. He's entertaining, and like we say, talk to him for more than 5 minutes, and you're gonna go, oh, I know that person. He knows everybody in Memphis. So
you're stressing over a roof and all of that stuff, and suddenly have this guy putting you at ease.
Right.
Going, don't worry about this. We do this all the time.
And you know what else? Yeah, and it's like he'll help you through the whole process, the whole claims process, which he makes it easy, but also you may wind up with a new roof in a couple of weeks. This isn't, we'll call you in 6 months type of thing. This is like pretty quick.
They did not mess around getting a roof up there.
No, they don't play games. So, well, you know who else doesn't play games, Allan? Purdue University. Apparently, it sounds pretty
serious. Yeah.
So what's going on over there, sir?
Well, Purdue University just got themselves a Guinness World Book record.
Well, you know how I feel about the Guinness Book of World Record, but in this case, it sounds like a legitimate one.
Well, yeah, all right. Come on. The Guinness World Book Records is it has a purpose.
The problem I have, not to go off on a tangent, Alan, one of the problems I have with the Guinness Book of World Records, if you flip through there, pretty much any of us could get a Guinness Book of World Record. Alan, you and I could say we have the longest run of anybody in the world for how many episodes of Tool Talk Radio we've done. Well,
that's true.
Technically that's true, but, so what? That's not... Yeah. Okay, so anyway, but go ahead, Alan. But this one sounds cool. This one does sound neat.
Somebody has to keep the records.
Right.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But here are the guys at Purdue University, and suddenly they get a call, and they've been told, you have now made the whitest paint ever.
Huh. I wonder what that looks like. I wonder if you got to put sunglasses on to see that.
Right,
if you look at a paint chart, Alan, and you see the off-whites, well, you could look at 50 different ones, and you're like, well, they are all different. But at first glance, they just look white. So.
All right. Well, you're almost there.
Yeah.
You're almost there because you brought up the word the sun.
Talk to me. Yeah.
And you also brought up the fact that you have a new roof and your electricity bill went down.
Right.
You kind of see where I'm aiming.
I figured there's more to the story than just...
to this, right? All right. So Zulin Ruan, a professor of mechanical engineering at Purdue, about 7 years ago said, okay, climate change problems of electricity bills... he began thinking in this kind of macro sense.
He wasn't thinking from a design thing of we need cleaner and whiter paint just for design purposes.
He was looking at a way of addressing, well, like you just said, you got a brand new roof and your electricity bill went down.
Right, yeah.
How is that in any way a loss?
Right.
That's a big win.
Sure.
So, all right, so here we go. We're looking at this, and now I'm going to take us on a trip to Antarctica for just a second. Okay.
I think I see where you're going, sir.
All right, so you get to Antarctica or you get to the North Pole, and what color is it?
It's pretty white.
It's pretty darn white because of all the ice and snow.
Right.
Well, that reflects away up to 90 to 95% of the solar energy, which is why it stays so cold.
I think I know where you're going with this.
All right.
Okay.
So here we go. So with those thoughts in mind, they began playing around with paint. And even the whitest white, our best titanium whites.
Or luminous white. That's a pretty bright one, too.
They are. But they're all basically, the core ingredient is titanium.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's what gives them that super white color. But the problem is all of those paints still act like regular paints.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's white and even though it's reflecting away a lot of the energy, it still warms up. It still absorbs things. It's just not quite white enough.
So if you had a board like this sitting out in the sun, it's still going to heat up.
It's still going to heat up. It's
not as if you had darker paint on there.
Right.
But, yeah.
So we had one stained a nice dark walnut. It's really going to absorb some heat.
Right.
The one painted white is going to absorb less heat.
Okay.
All right, so what if we could get rid of over 98% of the solar radiation? All right, that's less light, less wear, less oxidation, and it is definitely a lot less heat.
Okay.
I mean, this is so much less heat. If you had, all right, let's think about a lot of flat roofs. We were just on one this past weekend, and it was what color?
It was white.
It was white.
Yeah, we were on a flat roof. We should say we were at the Cooper Young Festival, and we were on a flat roof, and it was that rubberized material, which was bright white, like you said. So.
And it's designed to reflect away as much solar energy as possible to reduce the cooling, the cooling bill for the facility during the summer. All right. Well, the problem is even that material, while it gets rid of, let's say, 80% of the solar energy, still absorbs heat.
Okay.
It's not quite white enough. So here they go. They figured out if they added a little barium sulfate to the mix and they got the chemicals balanced and everything laid out just right, they can now bounce off up to 98% of that energy.
Huh. That's pretty interesting.
That's
basically
much
all of it. I mean, 98%. That's almost all of it.
That is so much cooling. Can you imagine walking on that roof at noon today when it's in the 80s and not have any heat coming off of it?
You know, it's funny. You're making me think of something, Alan.
What would that do for your air conditioning bill?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, are they looking to put something like this on all of our roofs? Now, I got to admit, Alan, I like the way my roof looks. I don't want a bright white roof on my house. But,
well, we're talking commercial buildings. I mean,
okay, so we're going to start off with roofs that most people don't see.
Right. Let's start off on that roof we were on Saturday.
All right.
That was a big roof.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of square footage. And now think about it. About every 1,000 square feet, if you were reflecting away 98% of that energy, you would be saving almost 10 kilowatts of power a day.
Huh. You know,
that's
Alan,
a sizable dent in that electricity bill.
Okay. And it's basically like I'm thinking of so it's basically it's providing you like a shield from your, instead of allowing all of that to come into your home or your place of business, it's bouncing it up
it's just returning
like a trampoline.
Right. Exactly.
A solar trampoline. Hey, that's a good name for a band, Alan.
Very good.
Solar trampoline.
Like
okay. Well, but this was a result. I guess what I'm wondering is, did Purdue University go into this with the idea, hey, just for kicks, we're going to see how bright we can actually make a paint? Or was this, just from like maybe interior designers will want this? Or was it just, hey?
This was the macro idea of how can we reduce energy consumption?
Okay.
And various lines of research led to interacting with the environment, especially the sun. Which the number one thing that interacts with the sun in our normal environments is paint.
It's interesting. It's all tying together. It's kind of like what we were saying earlier with the with the Lexus Design Awards, how they're cooperating with nature to basically they're still high tech, but they're they're following the laws of nature, and that's what I think you're going to have to do. So.
And the solutions aren't drastically high tech.
No.
They're just occasionally a fresh view, getting rid of the legacy thinking. Maybe we can use a different formulation. Maybe we can use a different application, more like a skylight.
Okay.
So now suddenly we have a skylight that's serving multiple purposes.
I don't know, Alan. I have to believe a lot of these people are Star Wars fans because the more you talk about this, the more I'm really feeling like we're talking about Tatooine. You talked about you're talking about pulling moisture or pulling, separating the salt water from the water, that just like a moisture farmer. The buildings they live in have light colored roofs.
Exactly.
They live underground to stay away from it. I mean, it's all coming for full circle. Star Wars is on the way.
We're almost there.
All right. Well, well, I don't know how to segue off of that. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with our buddy Maximilian all about the architectural style called Brutalism.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, or you can go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, give us a like, send us messages there. We'll answer in real time. And if you just woke up and if you missed any of Tool Talk Radio, never fear, you can check out any of our past episodes at tooltalkradio.com. Although I think Allan is one episode behind of posting it, sir.
Well, we were live last week.
Yeah, people want to hear that. The people that weren't there at the Cooper Young Festival want to hear what was going on. It was a lot of fun. So, you know what else is fun, Allan? Buying a home. It can be buying and selling a home. It can be quick, easy, and fun, believe it or not.
I've seen recent evidence of this in your own family.
In fact, speaking of the Cooper Young Festival, last week we had our buddy Kelly Cruz on there. She brought she's a seasoned veteran. She's been in this game. Well, for one thing, she's a legend in radio broadcasting here in the Mid-South, but also now she's become a legend in the real estate game. The whole crew over there at Weichert Realtors Benchmark is great, but that's sort of their angle. Quick, easy, and fun. Because it shouldn't, they want to take as much stress out of this as possible. They make the process, especially in this market, it's competitive. It is a competition, and so you need to be you got to be ahead of the game. You've got to be ready to go. What's great about them is it's sort of a one-stop shop. They can get you qualified, financed, and underwritten all together. So you don't go to 5 or 6 different places. You go to them. And everything, they can get you all set up. So, and when it's time to act, when it's time to buy a home or sell a home, they're going to help you get the best sale price for your home, and they're going to also help you get the best deal when it's time to buy a home. So they're awesome. You know what else is great? I love their phone number, 901-202-2000. That's easy to remember. If you're driving right now, I guarantee you can remember that number.
He's had that number a while.
Yeah, Rick Bowman, the owner, he's actually, full disclosure, he's a friend of mine. I've known him for 25 years. He's the only realtor I go to, but he runs a great operation over there. Weichert Realtors Benchmark. We just love those guys. 901-202-2000. Max, could you turn your microphone on? You and I were having a conversation the other day about an architectural style called Brutalism, and I think both of us have been doing a little research on this. Allan, I've been watching some YouTube videos and documentaries about Brutalism, and it's a pretty cool architectural style. And Max, this is one of your deep cuts.
Just to kind of set the tone.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks for that one. But I'm pumped. Okay, so talk to us.
So what about ugly architecture?
Hey. Allan's already thrown down the gauntlet.
So anyways, kind of to get an idea of where Brutalism came from, Brutalism was a response to sort of the nostalgia of the architecture of like the 1940s, sort of like it came from the modernist movement. And what's interesting is the term Brutalism doesn't necessarily come from the word like brutal, but it comes from the French phrase béton brut, which means raw concrete. And when you look at brutalist architecture, it's very much just like very cold, very dystopian looking like concrete architecture. It's very fascinating.
Well, it can be, because what I think of some of those massive housing units in like communist Russia or something that were very plain and kind of depressing looking and everything. But what the documentaries I saw, Max, were they talked about the honesty of the materials that were being used and the honesty of the function of the building. In other words, like when you looked at a brutalist building, you're like, oh, that's an office building, and oh, that's the entrance, and those are the office cubicles or something. Just based on the design, you get a sense of what you're looking at.
Exactly. The people actually talk about how it's less of an aesthetic and more of an ethic. And one of a brutalist architecture, Peter Smithson, actually said, Brutalism is not concerned with the material as much, but rather the quality of material, and seeing the materials for what they were, the woodiness of wood and the sandiness of sand.
Oh, that's well put. Yeah. That's true, because you look at it and you're like, okay, you're not wondering what the building is made out of. But I would disagree that it's cold, and some of it can be off-putting, but some of it, Allan, can look really cool, like depending on the curves or I think it all comes down to the architecture.
No,
well, no,
if you're going to be if you're going to be a true brutalist out of the UK, we got to go back to the Hoover Dam for a moment.
Now that's nice looking, I think.
Well, but that is basically a bit of brutalism, if you wish, because it was the mass scale use of concrete.
Right.
And basically the secret ingredient to concrete is a baked limestone.
Okay.
So because of some of the productions from getting out of the Great Depression, we ended up with factories capable of cranking out massive amounts of material.
Yeah,
So
because
we go in-
concrete's very readily available.
So we go into World War II, and again, our manufacturing refines itself even better. So we get to the 50s, and now we actually have the ability to produce concrete at this level.
Okay.
So concrete became kind of a darling of the building of the building world, because basically you can shape it any way you want to shape it. You can move it to wherever you need it. You can move it dry. You can move it wet. You can, however you need it to get there, it can arrive.
Okay. Well, I think this may evolve into a point counterpoint here. This might be a throwdown, because I have disagreements with Allan about the aesthetic nature of brutalism. We'll unpack that a little bit more when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Salt water will warp the wood, so keep your tears in your eyes where they belong.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, Allan. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV, and our pal Maximilian behind the glass. Doing a great job, Max. Way to go, man. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like, follow our adventures there, send us messages, and we'll answer in real time. And of course, we'd love to see your videos or your pictures of what you're doing at your home. So, home improvement triumphs and tragedies. Well, as I suspected, Allan, Max brought us one of his deep cuts. He likes to look into. Yeah, okay. He's just having way too much fun with that button over there. But as I suspected, Allan, he wanted to talk about an architectural style named Brutalism. I think everybody actually knows what it is. I think even instinctually, they're like, oh, Brutalism? I bet it's that one library that I drive past over here, or it's that one building that's like
Craigmont High School. Yeah.
Right. So, but as I suspected, it was going to turn into a point counterpoint, because I'm not against brutalism. I think
you have never worked on a brutalism building.
Well, it's picture
that'll cure you, I promise.
Picture a lot of folks. Picture a lot of concrete, a lot of straight lines. Sort of not like a warm, inviting look. Although I've seen some examples where the buildings actually look pretty cool and they look pretty artistic and stuff. But Allan seems to be pretty much against brutalism, at least from an aesthetic point of view.
All right. Well, brutalism has a few built-in instant problems.
Okay.
One, it is the single most non-flexible building once it's built.
Oh, I see. Because we always talk about your home's moving and expanding.
And expanding, and we can take this wall out, or we can move that, or we can shift this. In a brutalism construction, you ain't moving nothing.
Okay.
Everything is poured into place.
Yeah.
It's so much concrete. Two, brutalism buildings take upgrades to modern technology like ducks take to toting barrels of corn.
Okay.
They don't.
That makes sense, because you're, like you say, moving something or getting new cables through there.
Everything has to be drilled, and there is no cutting a hole in a wall.
Right.
There is like going and getting a guy that does seismic coring.
Okay.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Seriously. The other problem with a lot of brutalism buildings is the different chemical compositions of the concrete.
Well, and we should point out too, Allan, one thing I will agree with you to one degree. When you see a lot of these examples of brutalist buildings, a lot of times on that one side of the building, you see a bunch of mildew and you see a lot of dirt, because concrete's almost like a sponge. It is very absorbent of water and everything, and so it's probably a thing to constantly have to clean and everything. And of course, if you were to paint it, you sort of defeat the whole point of the look.
So welcome to a short-lived, but very durable architecture style.
Okay.
Of generally any building that is a brutalist building lives up to the American name. It's pretty brutal looking. They're going to be big. They're going to be blocky. They're going to look like cubes.
See, but Max, now I think Max and I are a little more open-minded than Allan in terms of the aesthetics. I'm not going to really argue with you about the function, but Max, one of the things you seem to like to appreciate is when they describe brutalism, they use the word honest a lot, right?
Yes, I just like the idea of like how it just sort of like a self-expression. Like you see the building for what it is. It's not coated with a bunch of like, if you're going back to like the Baroque or Rococo eras, it's not adorned with all these like fancy like
that is true
trusses and everything, but like there's a little bit more brutal. There's a lot of honesty behind it, but like I kind of wanted to raise a query about kind of because you guys are looking at brutalism from more of a practical standpoint, which yes, you kind of have to understand that it's a lot to maintain, but is it necessarily bad if something needs to be maintained? Does it make it any less worse? I mean, look at the Mona Lisa. It has to be confined to like a big glass thing inside the Louvre, but does it make it any less beautiful?
Or look at any building Frank Lloyd Wright built. Those things leak, and those things are...
All I'll say about brutalism is in its honesty, and I will agree that it is honest. It is as honest as a cold, hard concrete dope slap to the back of anybody working on one of these things.
Yeah.
There's a reason when you watch TV shows that show you like abandoned buildings of the world, most of them are brutal.
Well,
they have been abandoned. All right.
I think that's also because of the financial. Like I said, a lot of the communist Russian whatever you call it, where everybody lived, the apartment complexes and all. Well, that's partly an economic thing. It isn't necessarily because of the architecture of the building. The building's still there, Allan. So I don't know.
Well, it's sort of still there. It's kind of like, well, let's pick on an example of refined brutalism here in Memphis.
Okay.
The old Sears building.
There you go. Okay, for people that are not from the Mid-South, the Sears Crosstown project.
Exactly.
And I will own this. I was against this when I first heard about it. That place is gigantic. I don't even know how many square feet are in that building.
1 million square feet and a giant thing that looked like a salt lick.
If you're not from Memphis, Google the Sears Crosstown building, because what they did is they took this giant distribution center that had been sitting empty for decades, and they converted it almost into its own little community. It's got restaurants, it's got apartments, it's got it's got dentist's office, it's got a theater, and I love it now.
I will call it adapted brutalism.
Okay.
And at which point I will look at Max and go, I appreciate that.
Okay.
As for just pure brutalism, wow, what an amazingly horrible idea.
Well, you know what I think it was a reaction to, Max, is you mentioned this, like if you ever watch that movie Amadeus, okay, that whatever, I wish we could just forget that period of history. Men wearing wigs, you have every single thing. You have a table that's got 50 million little
in high heels.
Well, I mean, all these little details that they added on. My favorite type of architecture is when, like I would have to say, probably the pyramids or the St. Louis Arch. It's simple, but the architectural shape is interesting, and I think that's the way I see a little bit of that in brutalism.
And not only that, but like kind of going back to something even more ancient as a concept is when you think of brutalism kind of leaking into not only social buildings, but religious ones as well. It makes me think of kind of like some of the most beautiful things that I see. This is me just personally, though. Like, I love seeing like monasteries where like the altars are unadorned and everything. You just see the beauty of it's very minimalist. Yes.
Yeah. That was function over form.
Right.
Exactly.
Which brutalism again was a result of the ability to move massive amounts of material.
Right.
Function and form were more about building exactly what we needed, not any more, not any less, and full creation. We weren't going for the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
What we were going for is we got 10 monks that don't need to be eaten by bears.
Yeah.
And
that's a good way to put it, Allan. I like that. Yeah.
You know, me personally, I adore function.
Yeah.
And you don't need, as some people put it, you don't need all, I believe it was Catherine the Great who disliked the Baroque period because she called it all whipped cream.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You don't need so much whipped cream on all of this. I want something more functional, more basic, because it is less work, it is less maintenance, it is more adaptable.
Yeah. I suspect, though, we're going to see a little bit more brutalist elements coming into our homes.
I kind of want to close out this little segment with a quote by Bruce Lee. It was about martial arts, but it kind of ties into the beauty of brutalism itself, kind of like, don't give me all this whipped cream. He said, I can do all these fancy moves and look all cocky, but to express myself honestly, that, my friends, is very hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you want all the flash and the bang and everything, but honestly, that's not, I don't know. I don't like that. I think brutalism has its place, and maybe they got a little carried away with some of these, everything's got to be concrete. But honestly, Alan, I think concrete, we haven't seen the last of concrete. It can be used in a lot of great ways. So.
But I think the Sears Crosstown building today is a shining example of what can be done with some of these less useful buildings.
Right.
And it took a lot of renovation. You and I were down there.
Yeah, we were there from day one. Because like I said, I did a full 180. I was at first against it, and then I became its biggest champion. I was like, okay, they knew what they were doing.
Halfway through it, you still looked at it and went, wow, this is just terrible. Right. And 2/3 of the way through it, you began going, all right, I'm starting to see the structure of what they're trying to do. And then when you finally walk in that building and walk through and realize that they had done such a good job of A, keeping the original structure, and then B, softening it with the things that we need in the modern world, not the 50s.
Right.
So, big salute. So brutalism, I'll finish my bit on brutalism with, I think at this point, it's a great place to start the renovation.
Well, and I'll even say this, to close out my end on brutalism, Alan, if the grid ever goes down, or if we have a nuclear invasion, or if aliens show up at our doorstep, I'm going into a brutalist building. You talk about hunkering in. That's the place you want to be.
Dude, I don't met you, but I got 2 cisterns in the back that'll make a great underground bunker.
Yeah, we already know, Alan, and you can feed yourself too at Alan's place. So, but we love to know where you fall in on brutalism. But anyway, you're listening to it's been pretty brutal today. Mm-hmm. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to change gears. I hope our buddy Brandon Olmstead is here, like he's supposed to be. We're going to do a little transition from Tool Talk Radio into Geek Tank Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This castle is in unacceptable condition! Unacceptable!
News Talk 98.9, the Roar of Memphis.
Don't blame me. Alan worked on that one. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV and our pal Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio.
Oh, yeah.
You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, our pal Brandon Olmstead is here because we've got a special edition of Geek Tank Radio coming up directly after Tool Talk.
Yes, we do.
Because
I had to invade early.
Football is going to it's going to cut in on our normal hour.
Football is king this time of year. But, a little confession, that was actually Joe was recording when we went and looked at a castle.
Oh, I remember when you guys went and did that.
See, Joe doesn't remember.
That would have been a great place for us to really create an art gallery and center. But
we'll talk about that one.
Memphis actually has a castle in it. Yeah. That's true.
Well, before the break, we were indicating that we were gonna have kind of a transition talking about actually the roots of Geek Tank Radio, which relates strictly to working with your hands, but we're calling it audible here, Alan, because off the air you were telling us about 30 years of stupid that we got to hear that first.
Because all I got to say is, ladies and gentlemen, if you have no idea how to install a garbage disposal,
then you shouldn't.
Please don't. That's we're gonna start there.
Does this really need to be said? I guess it does. So.
My gosh.
Joe, you have read the warning labels on all the tools that you use. you know this needs to be said.
Okay.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right. You're saying somebody didn't follow this advice, Allan?
Didn't follow the advice. I think they ate the instructions.
Okay.
That was the first thing that went in the disposal.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, one for anybody that is trying to change a garbage disposal, and and I find that this time of year is when I get a lot of these calls.
Yeah.
And it's because people are holiday cooking. Well, they're cooking heavier duty stuff.
What, they want to run the whole turkey skeleton down the drain?
I would say that it probably has a lot more to do with the idea of caramel apples.
Oh.
Well, actually, for me, it usually winds up being a squash product.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of acorn squash and butternut squash, and they have those hard rinds.
Okay.
So for some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's just me, I seem to be on the receiving end of, pumpkin.
Yeah.
Okay. We won't bring up pumpkin spice. I'll just bring up pumpkin rind.
No, it's the fall. You can bring up pumpkin spice.
All right. So what happened here, Allan?
Don't put a lot of stuff down there that really you're going to regret.
Right.
Number 2, adequate amounts of water.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't run it dry. That's for sure.
If you have just dropped that, Aunt Sally's amazing rice pudding that nobody's bothered to eat in 12 days, and you put that whole thing down the disposal of the garbage disposal keep in mind, things like rice and pasta and that kind of stuff, they love to swell back up.
Yeah.
So if you shove all of that down one of those poor pipes, you need to put plenty of water down behind it to keep it moving through the system. Or when it stops, it's going to solve your drain problem.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to drain anything.
Okay.
That stuff will swell on up. As far as the actual installation of one, there is a bracket that works one way. All I have to say for my 30 years of stupid is I have never seen one work backwards.
Well, you're talking about the threaded thing that you twist into place.
There is the part you install to the bottom of the sink.
Why do I get this feeling that there was someone going, Allan, it just won't go back on?
Right.
Oh my!
Or they didn't hear the rule lefty loosey, righty tighty, or something. So.
Yeah, and well, actually, there were 2 instances because there was also a commercial unit this week, and my only real words for somebody undoing something for the first time.
Yeah.
Tape you can write on is valuable.
Yes.
Because you can label that wire so you know where it came from a week later when you buy the new unit and go to put it in. And you don't have electrical spaghetti sticking out of the box. Because
yeah, well, that's what your cell phone's for. You take a picture too, so you can match up the way it looks.
They didn't do that either. There were no pictures.
What was the result?
But I will guarantee you that person took a picture of the food that they tried to put down the disposal.
Oh my gosh.
So they installed it incorrectly, and what was the result? Was there an explosion?
Nothing. It did nothing.
Well, that's not as bad as it could be.
Well, happily, because nothing happened, the phone call went out.
Yeah.
And the appropriate people arrived and spent, I don't know, a 30-minute install now became a 6-hour bug hunt through the wires.
Yeah. I will say, Allan, because I've installed a couple of garbage disposals at my own house, and I'm pretty handy. I mean, I know how to do things, but honestly, in retrospect, that might be one I would just pay somebody to do because it's a pain to get to, for one thing, and there is high-pressure water. There's high-pressure, seals that you got to deal with.
And there is that magical little plastic cap hidden inside the new garbage disposal that you've got to knock out of there because otherwise your dishwasher won't drain.
Yeah.
Now, I've been under my sink. I've changed out faucets. I've changed out lines. I've changed out pretty much everything under there. I'm a fan of horror movies. I will never have a garbage disposal in my house.
Yeah.
I've seen the damage that they do in a fictional world. I don't want to ever be on the receiving end of that.
Too funny.
It's funny what Brandon's point of reference is on so many levels. Yeah, you go to his house and there's all these unusual features, and it really has to do with his horror or fantasy or sci-fi roots.
That's true.
He looks at this and goes, "No, I don't have a garbage disposal. Why?" Because in 1996 they put a whole horse down one. Right. You're like, okay. Then you look at Brandon, you just kind of go, all right, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. There's no further argument to that.
Yeah. Did you ever see Nightmare on Elm Street 7? That's why I don't have a garbage disposal. So, all right. Well, Allan keeping us abreast, but we will say, in fairness, the garbage disposal is nothing to play games with.
No.
Get it right, people.
But this, especially going into this time of year with all of the fall foods and stuff in, there are thick rinds and stuff like that. So let's move past that. Or as I'm putting in your new garbage disposal or possibly entire new sink system, I'm going to need Joe's new toy.
Okay. Oh. All right. Well, good segue, Allan, because we better get to this before we run out of time today. I'm holding up our must-have item of the week. Now, if you're somebody that scooted over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you already know what this is because I posted it before the show started. But Brandon, tell us what I'm holding up here.
I have no idea what you're holding up there, Joe.
Okay. Really? I mean,
seriously, I'm looking at what looks like a spool. Now, normally when I see a spool like that, it's a chalk line, but that's not a chalk line.
All right, I'm disappointed in Brandon. Allan, tell us what I'm holding up here. So
I'm going to reach over and take it from him and pull it out and go.
It's just a tape measure.
It's not just a tape measure, sir. This is a 100-foot hand crank tape measure. This is the serious
tape measure.
This
is for measuring the
Joe
house.
just likes the fact that it's a hand crank and he doesn't have to worry about anything digital.
Well, it's fun, people. If you get this, it's a little more. I think this one is more closer to $20 or $25, but this is 100-foot. What I love about this is that hand crank thing. You could be measuring, like if you're out in your backyard, you're getting ready to build a fence or something, and you need to take large measurements. Well, when it's time to crank it up, it's not spring loaded. This is something you crank, so it's not going to just spool back and hit you in the face. And it cranks fast.
You have experienced that, haven't you?
Yeah, I want to say each turn of this handle is a good foot that it cranks. It's fast.
That's awesome.
And it's really good. And of course, I love this because this time of year, Brandon, I'll be using this to map out our vendor room at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. Because if you have to measure like a large ballroom, you pull this out and suddenly makes the job easy.
Strangely enough, I'm looking at this, and I mean, the tape measure itself is a much sturdier material, yet more flexible than what you're used to as well. I kind of dig this, but you know what you know what my reference is to this?
What's that?
This looks very much like the depth finder cable that Dan Aykroyd uses in the opening scenes of Ghostbusters 2 when he's under the city and he's testing the river of slime.
Yeah, well, well, everybody knows that.
You wanted to talk about my references and how things relate.
And for all you outdoorsmen, this the hand cranked feature, it's very similar to a fishing rod. I mean, you crank it in and it's got some torque. It's
a great way to reel in the neighborhood cat.
And for everybody out there who's concerned about their accessories, it's got a really nice belt loop.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's very cool. So I highly recommend the 100-foot hand cranked tape measure. So and it's seen me through some fun times, I have to admit. Like I said, it reminds me of the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. Speaking of the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention and Geek Tank Radio and Tool Talk Radio, none of these things would exist if it wasn't for the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Fair, which is happening this weekend. How's that for a tease? We're going to unpack that mystery when we come back. You're listening to News Talk Radio. You're listening to News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Call Poison Control if you're bit by a spider, but check that it's covered by your healthcare provider.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Been there, done that. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my friends Allan Gilbert from Geeky Side TV, and Brandon Olmstead from Geek Tank Radio, and, of course, the director of the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, which you'll be hearing about shortly.
That makes it sound like I have way more power than I actually do.
Good point.
I like chairman.
You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Better yet, send us a Facebook message. Those are saved for the ages, and we can we can reply to it. And actually, stand by, because we have a special edition of it's an abbreviated edition because we have a football game today. But we're having Geek Tank Radio immediately after Tool Talk Radio, which is why Brandon dropped in. And we thought there's a nice crossover that we can discuss that we're going to bring up in just a minute about the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Fair, which is going on this weekend. Before we get to that, though, I just want to remind everybody, if you need a deck or a pergola or a patio cover, especially patio covers, I've been doing a lot of those, a screened-in porch, a fence, or anything made out of wood for the outside of your home, give me a call at 901-921-7105 or visit my website, thorshomes.com. And also, I want to remind I'm really looking at contractors and business people that appreciate the content here on Tool Talk Radio and Geek Tank Radio. We're always looking for partners, and we're trying to assemble sort of a list of experts, Allan, that we can have. We've already got some great experts with Whitekurt Realtors, Tri-State Interiors, Brown Refrigeration, Big M Roofing, and we might have some others in the pipeline. Yeah. But if you'd like to be a part of that team, give me a call directly at 901-921-7105. And Allan, as long as we're talking about some of our projects that we work on, what one of your big projects is Geeky Side TV.
It is. And for our second week in a row, I'm going to have to tell you our breakout superstar is Scott J. Carroll, a wonderful stand-up comedian, and his story times.
I've been full disclosure, Allan, I binged all of the videos that he did. Those are great, and I like how they're like 6 to 10 minutes long, and I listened to one, and then I wound up listening to all of them. They're really good, man.
Yeah, I called Joe yesterday to check in to see what we were going to talk about today, and the first thing he goes, "Hey, have you watched Scott's story time thing?" And I was like, "Not yet." And he goes, "They're really good." It's like, well, yeah.
They're strangely compelling, too.
Yeah, well, and Joe, now you understand what happened at your convention a couple of years ago when everybody kept asking you about barbecue night.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. I didn't see the connection.
You understand now.
Right. Well, no spoilers, Allan. So if you want to learn more, those are great. I highly recommend those. Yeah. Scott's a good dude, too. So how do people check that out, Allan?
All they got to do is go to geekysidetv.com and click on Storytime, and we'll probably drag Scott in here into the studio sometime soon.
I wouldn't be surprised. So
proof that he's a good dude. He put up with us during the Cooper Young Fest and the rain last week.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Big shout out to Scott. All right, hey guys, we don't want to run out of time. There's an interesting what do you call this? Convergence, cosmic convergence, whatever, happening this weekend. And I thought it would be an interesting tie-in, and it would also lead well into Geek Tank Radio coming up in a minute. But so the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Festival is going on this weekend, which we highly recommend. It's a really cool, it's one of the better ones. And it's, for one thing, they get some top-notch, it's a juried show, Allan, which we know what that means. You can't just show up with stuff you pulled out of your garage.
Yeah, you're not making that popsicle stick,
right?
Little statue there and hoping to get into this thing. You have to be an artisan.
Yeah, it's a great event, and it's just it's outdoors. And what I like about the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Festival is they have demonstrations. They're not just people selling stuff. You can go to the smelting tent, or you can go and watch people make brooms the old-fashioned way, or the looms where they make fabrics and stuff. So it's cool. But
I really don't recommend the smelting tent
or the petting zoo.
Things start to melt.
Yeah, but you guys, if it wasn't for the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Festival, I don't know that I would even know you guys. There probably wouldn't be a Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, and I doubt we would be doing Tool Talk or Geek Tank. May I explain? Okay.
So this, go ahead.
Okay, because Max is on the edge of his seat trying to hear. Well, basically, back when the Harry Potter final book came out in 2007, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I'm a fan of the books, not so much of the movies or whatever. But
get over it.
But I love the books. That's the hill I'll die on. I think those people are going to be reading those books hundreds of years from now. Well, I was inspired to use my wood turning skills to make Harry Potter inspired wands. Mm-hmm. And so I sold those, and I started going to arts and crafts shows. And some shows I did better than others. It just depended, Right. And to be honest, I was booked for the Arts and Crafts Festival at the Pink Palace, Arts and Crafts Fair, and I was on the fence. I'm like, I'm either going to give this thing up or I'm going to really sink my teeth into it. Well, I set up there, and I'm just going to be honest, I made a killing over there. I did great, and I had a really positive experience, and it reinvigorated my wand making business. And then I started bringing them to conventions, which is where I met you guys. Yeah. So, and the rest is history. So it's like I started going to conventions and started to talk to people like you guys, and then we got the idea of, hey, why don't we start another convention so we don't have to wait a year in between, like Mid-South Con or whatever, and that's where it started. And Geek Tank grew out of that, and Tool Talk grew out of that. But
Geek Tank grew out of that because we don't know when to close our mouths.
Right. But I wanted to talk about it. All of us have worked with our hands, and we make, Brandon, there's a real satisfaction that comes from making something yourself with your own two hands and putting it out there and, sharing it with the public.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, I started off, it started more of a Zen moment, but I refer to it as decorating hockey masks. I don't, because I work from someone else's blank.
Right.
JDF Studios, I'm going to just go ahead and plug them because they are no longer in the business of supplying blanks, and I'm sad about that because they had the best ones. But I could order bulk blanks, and I could go to town and then I had people wanting to buy them from me, and I'm like going, oh, okay.
Right.
And so you start feeling more, it's not just about the Zen, it's about the accomplishment. And then, of course, you're like, all right, I'm going to step in, I'm going to start working on other things. And being a horror guy, of course, I'm sitting there going, I'm going to make weapons, and we've got tombstones out in our yard, and I've incorporated you guys into my latest project, which is building a candy coffin for the kids for trick or treat.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should explain, Brandon. You're talking about props, like prop weapons.
These are props.
For cosplayers.
I'm not full on going out there forged in fire style and building, giant broadswords.
Right.
When you're ready, let me know.
Yeah, Allan is tempting me to get involved in that.
But Brandon, you said something that's kind of interesting, and I think a lot of creators hit this point, or if you're an artist, somebody was willing to pay for your work, which that's total validation that what you're doing is worthwhile. Which that's an exciting moment.
And it is. You feel that change when you go from I'm doing this for fun, I'm doing this, and there's nothing wrong with just doing it as a hobby or for fun, but it becomes a discipline, and then people go, I really enjoy your work, whether they're buying it or not. Once they start giving you that validation, you're just like, all right, now I want to go bigger. I want to go better. I want to go outrageous.
Yeah, because we're all about support. We're all about getting people to work with tools, getting people to work with their hands and everything. And so there's so many benefits, and this is another aspect of that. Yeah. So,
well, there's a lot of talk in Memphis right now about studios moving here and that type of thing. And, well, being an actor or being an entertainer is a lot of fun, but keep in mind, it takes a small army of people to make a production happen. You've got the props, you've got the sets, you've got the cameras, you've got the tech, you've got the editing, the recording, the engineering of the locations, the location finding, the whole, there's so many aspects of, just hanging around and having fun at Halloween. There's so many aspects. Several of the attractions that didn't happen last year are warming up for this year.
Yeah.
And those
they're wanting to go big.
And there's a specific one that I love that happened last year that is going bigger and better this year because they found a way to make it COVID safe.
Right.
But it was the most extraordinary experience I've ever had, and that's at the Haunted Web. I'm just going to throw them out there too because they're great guys.
Well, Haunted
Web, a lot
of
creativity with that too.
A lot of these places are just having a blast. But you think about the carpentry work and the creative work, the amount of painting, the amount of set design that it takes to go into every one of these productions.
We've got a guy here who worked on some of the set design for a local film that will be debuting later, in October.
And
actually, we should mention that. So
before, and we're going to get back to the Pink Palace thing, but I do want to say our buddy Rachel Taylor, she's got her movie Soulless, which, Allan, it's a Victorian horror film. It's a short film, and I was actually a part of building. It was a pretty elaborate set. It was this big hallway scene that was like, I don't know, 30 feet long, and I had to build a hallway that was freestanding, and I had help. Our buddy Mr. Robert helped, and several other people. But it was pretty exciting and validating to see your work on film.
Let's just go ahead and talk about how humble Joe is about all this. I've seen the set; it's amazing. You know how I found out Joe worked on it? There were pictures from behind the scenes of the building of the set, and I'm like, hey, that's Joe. Joe doesn't brag about his work, and then all of a sudden you find all these amazing things he's worked on, and he's like, oh yeah, I did that. It's like, I want to get to that level of artisanship.
I don't know.
When you go to a show like the Pink Palace, and you get to watch, a true master potter on a wheel. And they usually have somebody, that's more than happy to sell you the good stuff on the front. But the artisan is generally sitting there in the booth making something.
Well, I was about to say, Allan,
that is fascinating.
One of the cool aspects, if you get over to the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Fest, I should say it's over at Southern Avenue and Perkins, and it's a very affordable. It's a great thing for the kids, but you get into great conversations. And what I enjoy too is when you walk by a booth, because we can look at a piece of maybe woodworking or something, and you go, oh, okay, I think I know how that person made that. The fun booths are the ones where you go, I have no idea how they did that.
Yeah.
Or how did they bend the metal to do that? Or how did they create that? And all of those people are eager to tell you about their work, and it's just a cool experience. And it might motivate you to go ahead and start creating. That's one of the things I like about it. So, and you'll probably walk away with some great art. And it's cool, man. So get over there, the Pink Palace Arts and Crafts Festival. We didn't get paid. How do we get paid to promote this out?
I don't know.
You're gonna have to reach out to the Pink Palace before next year.
Okay, but anyway, we'll be. I'm going to be there at some point this weekend, and I'm guessing all of us will make a stop over there. So, well, hey, if you can't get enough of Allan and Brandon and I, never fear, because don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial, because coming up is a very special edition of Geek Tank Radio coming up next. But we're putting Tool Talk Radio in the can. It's over, you guys. So on behalf of my friends Brandon Olmstead and Allan Gilbreth, thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and our buddy Max behind the glass. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio on News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll see you next week.